All right, this is a 1997 Honda Acty Street van, and I am installing the Moog strut rod bushing kit. And the bushings I am talking about are down low here, and they are right here. The one here and the one here. And it's 25 bucks is the current going rate. And it's Moog. I think they're made in the USA, and it is K9733. So supposedly by installing these bushings, it will drastically improve the ride quality and steering and handling of the vehicle. So I figured for 25 bucks, give it a shot and see what happens. I'm sure with these things being 25, 26 years old, it probably needs to be replaced anyways, so why not? Wow, that's hot. I guess it's hot from me taking it off. Anyways, the cup is facing outward versus inward. So you got the bolt up high and the nut underneath. Give you a better look here. So you got the two bolts right there, and you have the bolt up top and then the nut on the bottom. So might need 2 wrenches for this. Try with just 1 wrench first. Cracked it loose at least. Do the other one. Oops, I'm not on there square. Huh. Why is that slipping? 9/16 seems to fit a little better on this one bolt. So, gonna give it a try. Holy cow. All right, so I jacked this up like 1 inch. There's no weight on this in theory now. Back to the 14. Man, for whatever reason, the 14 is slipping. I knew it was too good to be true when the first one came right off. There we go. Got my first knuckle buster. There we go, I think. Woo! Yeah, for some reason the 9/16 worked better on that nut. So even though it's 14 millimeter. Or supposedly 14 mil. All right, that one's off. All right, so I just took the 2 nuts off, and that gives it just a little bit of wiggle room. And here you go, that one popped out. And then, because there's another one behind here, yeah, you gotta take these all the way off no matter what. Go. A little bit of a love tap. That came out. This comes off. That's pretty dirty in the middle there. All right, probably clean this up a little bit. It's getting a little rusty. And then probably put some grease in there too. All right, using my little mini bench vise here and my angle grinder with the wire wheel, and did some cleanup here, and I guess it's better than it was before. And I'll probably put some grease on there to just kind of help lubricate and protect things. All right, so this is everything that comes in the kit. And according to everybody online, the only thing we're going to use out of here are the actual bushings. These washers and these sleeves supposedly aren't used, and these sleeves do not fit over, so that makes sense. You're not gonna want to use that. And as for the washers, I mean, they seem pretty close to being the same. So I don't know. I mean, people say they just stick with the stock one. I mean, it makes sense that you wouldn't use a washer like on the back part, because this is like part of the rod, right? So obviously you're not going to put a washer there. That doesn't even fit. And then this washer, you know, goes there. So I don't know. I mean, what's the difference between that and this? You could probably use a new washer up front, but I guess people just stick to that one. I mean, maybe I'll find out once I start putting it on here why people stick with the old one versus the new one. And then with the bushings, there are two sizes. These are slightly larger than these, and it'll be pretty obvious. And the small one goes in the back, and the large one goes up front by the nut. All right, so just to do a dry fit right here, this is the big one up front, and the small one in the back. And when they go on, it's gonna look like that, right? Kind of like a yo-yo. The fat sides are on the outside, skinny side in the middle. Remember, the big one up front, and then the small one in the back. I've had this white lithium grease sitting around forever, and it says you can use it on auto parts, suspension parts, whatever. So I'm gonna throw a little bit of that in there too. And for reference, the new ones are quite a bit larger, and they feel harder for sure. This one is the new small one. That's the old small one. And then it's even a bigger difference here, the new front large one and the old front large one. All right, so I got a thin coating of white lithium grease on there. And the small bushing goes on first. All right, large bushing up front, small side in. There we go. Oh, so of course, can't get things back together. It's either put these in and that doesn't fit, or I put this in and then that doesn't fit. Oh, jeez. Yep. That's how it goes, folks. It's like the easiest thing ever until it doesn't work right, and then you're scrambling. All right, so of course, what can go wrong will go wrong. These threads were partially stripped. I don't think any fault of my own. I think they're just old and rusty. And the first couple threads were stripped off, so I had to get it in just the perfect spot. The old washer did not work for me. The new one gave me slightly more clearance, so I ended up using that. And then once I did that, now these won't line up. However, I have this metal owl pick thing, and I finally put it in the rear hole, and I could wiggle it around, and finally got this front one to drop through. So hopefully we are coming to the end of the rainbow. Oh, praise the Lord, it drops through. How ridiculous, man. All right, calling it. No torque spec on these, so I just tightened them as hard as I could by hand. All right, 80 foot-pounds. All right, so quick recap. I loosened this, loosened those, jack it up a little bit, took those all the way out, took the whole thing all the way out, cleaned up the end of the rod, put it all back together. Ultimately, I had to not put those in at all. I just had this out, threaded the rod through, put the bushings on. I used the new washer because it gave me slightly more clearance. Once I got this threaded on here, I was able to route those bolts through using this metal punch owl thing, and then got those threaded through, hand tightened those to basically as tight as I could make them, torque that down to 80 foot-pounds. I gotta do the other side now, and I'm definitely not gonna record it because it's just the same thing over and over. And believe it or not, recording what you're doing, even if it's the same thing you just did, adds quite a bit of extra time. So I'm skipping it out. I'll show you at the very end once it's all done. All right, zero problems doing the other side, and I didn't even have to jack it up. I think if you just take all the bolts off, all three, you don't have to jack it up. You don't got to mess with any of that. I put a lot more white lithium grease on this side, and I'm not sure I'd recommend that, even though it's probably okay. Mainly when you go to torque it down, the bushing itself will start to spin, and even the big washer will spin, where, on this side, I didn't put nearly as much, and none of that happened. So, I could torque that to 80 foot-pounds pretty easily, but then that one just kept going and going and going. So then I ended up just measuring the threads, like how many threads were sticking out, and I essentially made the thread count even. I ended up with about 9 or 10 millimeters worth of threads sticking out the end. So other than putting a bunch of extra white lithium grease on that one on the right side there, they're both done, and I'm ready for a test drive. After the test drive, I will retorque everything, make sure everything's good to go, and yeah, I guess it'll be an experiment and see if all that extra white lithium grease will pan out in the end.